Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Beto O'Rourke of Venezuela. This is episode 6 of Political Report podcast, and here it's a three-peat with Caesar and Bam, who don't necessarily know who they are in this edition of Family Squares. So, only I do, which is really the magical part of this. But it's okay. One of those screenshots will probably work for an image. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? What's up?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Alive.
Oh man, no, it's excited to get it cracking with y'all. It has been a month. It's been quite a month since we last talked, pretty much.
Damn, it's been a month? That's ridiculous.
It's been about a month, 3.5 weeks. But the reason why we don't do these as often, honestly, is because in a video that is going to be released before the next political report is out, I can promise you that. So within the next 2 years, we will. I'll kind of have more of an explanation for this, but I think being able to step out of the media, like the news cycle, and not cover every little palace intrigue drama that's going on all the time, and actually go okay, what was the big thing that's happened in this month from now? It's a better way to get an idea and a sense of the news. I think it's a healthier way.
I agree. I'm just being annoying, but I do agree with you.
That's pretty much the theme of whatever this show is. Sean could not join us. He has clearly more interesting affairs. Always brought to you by Union Busters grapefruit juice. Always love them. And shall we jump into it? Shall we jump into the topics? Today we're going to be talking kind of about where we picked off from episode 4. As we dropped episode 5, but that was recorded before 4. So 4 is the recent one we talked about the George Floyd stuff. We're going to kind of talk about what happened since then. There's this whole debate on the left in the left media, speaking of healthiness with the media, about far-right populism going off. And it's interesting that all the people who have stuff to talk about this seem to be fairly far removed from their exact positions right now from much of this populism, yet are still popping off about it. So we'll talk about that in a moment. And of course, this is hot shots really. I think it's even for our modest podcast, we're punching down with Tim Pool, Matt Gold, Tracy, some of these cracks. I'm not going to say anything that gets this.
Crack quacks.
Crack addicts. Nothing that gets me. Allegedly parody that are on in the media. And of course, our random question of the week. Sean will be here for that in jest. But it's the question we talked about in the chat with the protests and stuff. Anyways, getting it going. So 1 month later, since the George Floyd protests really started happening, we had a lot of some fatalistic predictions, some not. But actually, I had the most fatalistic prediction that this was going to go nowhere and this was going to fizzle out. And y'all said this was going to, or at least you, Bam, you definitely said that this might continue, this might be different, this might be a breaking point. And I think there's some cases to be made on both sides. Just really fast before y'all jump in, to recap, the protests happened. Since then, there have been more Black people being killed by police, Black people being killed in suspicious incidents that look like lynching, but the FBI won't call them lynching. That have happened all over the country. There have been Black women who have gone missing, who have ended up sexually assaulted and then dead. Black trans women. It's all really tragic to be going on, especially during Pride Month. So there's still a lot of violence going on, but there's still protests happening every week in places. People in the streets, people turning out in weekends wearing masks. There's still that presence out in the streets. There's an actual argument over defunding and protesting, or defunding the police. That's kind of making waves. It seems to be fizzling out a little bit now, but
I was at a protest today, actually, and it was cracking.
Okay, Bam.
It was cracking.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess given that much context, Bam, what was it like at that protest there? And do you think this movement has legs?
Oh, I mean, honestly, honestly, I don't remember my prediction from before, but I'm going to say I was optimistic. But, and I also can't remember if we recorded that before I went to the Fullerton protest. I don't know if you remember, Dan.
I think I've seen some pictures of this, and it was before.
Okay, so we recorded
before.
So I think like that next weekend, I went to my first protest, which they like brought out a tank and it was all these riot police and it was kind of a tense situation.
In Fullerton, which for context, mind you, is like a suburb of Los Angeles, outside of the county even.
What's
There's a college. It's basically a college town.
It's Orange County, but it's a small city in Orange County, very small. They actually had 3 police departments present, and the police outnumbered the protesters, and they also brought out a armored personnel carrier that was huge.
Now, that's a definite point to make for me with the militarization of the police, where I said last episode. But
yeah, it was. I mean, that was the last weekend of May, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that would have been the like first weekend of June. Maybe, I'm not sure actually. It's something like that.
I think it was the end of May. Either way, I can't necessarily remember. But yeah, and ever since, and I mean, yeah, and like I went to another protest today, like, and it wasn't as many. It was in Orange. It wasn't as many people as when Caesar and I went that first weekend, but it was still a lot of people. This one was organized by Chapman students. It was also like a pride event, but it was also like a Black Lives Matter / pride event. But yeah, I'm seeing that it's still up out here. People are really still, it's not the same energy as the first weekend or the second weekend, but it's still like people are pushing this line about defunding the police and like getting out in the street. I always will judge if something's important for the people if people are literally getting up off their ass and, getting out in the street. And there's still plenty of people doing that.
That's good, Caesar.
I mean, I really haven't been myself to a protest since the time we went. I think it was right after we recorded this too, right? Was it right before? Ma'am, I don't really remember.
It would have been after at some point.
It would have been after. It was right about, yeah, it was right about after I went to protests. Just for own personal reasons, I haven't gone to any other ones. But what I have noticed talking to some of my friends is that although the frequency and what we saw every day, turned up levels, especially all over media, and I think widespread, maybe that has dialed down. But I don't think the message has changed. I think it's been pretty consistent in terms of people are not backing down. And then when you're seeing, like, actually what I noticed, for example, I saw a lot of different cities doing like little gestures to try to kind of defuse situations, like, oh, we're going to build this mural in front of a building. You're still seeing the response saying, we didn't ask for a mural. That's not what we want. We don't want this. Yeah. We don't want some cool sign or a bunch of high fives or whatever and paint. Like, what we want is like this specifically addressing defunding police or whatever the list of demands are people asking for right now in different areas. So that's what I'm happy with. One of the biggest concerns I had going into this is that we were only going to have that 4-day Twitter energy for everything, where everybody's going to be turned up talking about it, and then as soon as the media people drop off it, the media drop off it. The media may have stopped talking about it, but I'm still seeing people going. I'm still seeing activity, and that's what matters, because it doesn't really matter how much CNN or NBC or whoever wants to cover it. It's about what we're doing out there ourselves actively as people. So that's what's been making me really happy about what's going on.
Yeah, I 100% there with that. I think in the actual among regular people, among everyday people, people are still talking about this. They're angry. I think there was a huge radicalization that happened. Maybe not like a radicalization is the wrong word, but a shift from even like the centrist moderate sort of like, I don't know. I care about Black people. I have Black friends, but I do believe all lives matter too. Like, okay, no, I understand what's going on with the police. Like, it's like a really big problem here. Like, there's been a shift on that level of politics where usually nothing happens. And even on like the more on the ground, closer to the naturally just close to the left level of things, there's still an active moment. There's still a movement. There are people who are still trying to get out there. And I think it's just now time for people to harness that energy and keep going, because I'm happy to see the protests are happening. It's definitely not the same fervor as was earlier. And there is definitely a point to what was said earlier about the protests being very gemmed up in the news media, because it looked like there was Wendy's getting burned down and stuff getting looted left and right, when in reality, most of the time it was peaceful. All the time it was, like you said, Bam, the police outnumbered the protesters that were there. But you can't, we saw Occupy fizzle out. That was a hell of a protest. They were there for months and months, but it fizzled out, it always fizzled out. So it has to always extend beyond the marching into regular organizing and activism, of course.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think also one thing real quick, sorry, Bam. I think it's cool that like people, you know, it's even when the media was covering it, it was, to me, I mean, we're kind of going way back to, you know, this a little bit, and, you know, it's fine, but I felt like a lot of it was covering, like, they were covering like the time span in which it's going to be interesting to watch. Like, oh, like, look at this fire here, or look at this building is on fire, look at this. They weren't talking about, you know, beforehand the 8 hours of peacefulness. They weren't really trying to show that, because that's not what's really going to drive interest in terms of public eyes on TV. So that's what I was like, every time I'm turning it on, I'm seeing all this. But then when you're hearing from people, you're seeing people's stories, you're seeing their feeds, you're not like seeing that stuff. Like, you're not seeing that level. So I'm like, that's funny. That seems to me more like you're concentrating like on the 5% of what's really going on when you're seeing these, you know, for example, the Los Angeles one where they were over there by Universal City Walk, you know, like they had the record crowd, it was like 100,000 plus people, and there was just no violence. It was just everybody's just out there. You know, in Long Beach, they're talking about the looting the night before. Long Beach, their protest started at 1 p.m. So you're talking 9 hours or 8 hours of people before sunset doing anything. And then later on the night when everybody was leaving, people were talking about they were there hanging out and there was no looting. Then they decided to leave because they were tired. It was the end of the day. And then the night stuff's up, and here comes the camera crew with the big lights and wanting to show people walking into Skechers and stuff like that, you know, like wilding out. So I thought that was like making sure, I thought that was like, I'm happy that a lot of people saw past that too. I think a lot of people were like, nah, that's not really how it was. Like, that stuff sucks or whatever, however they felt about that. But they were like, when I went, it was this, and, you know, the message was putting out there.
Yeah, there's no like smearing in the media, or the smearing isn't working that well with this as well. It's still working in a lot of cases. There's still like all the Antifa stuff. Andy No is gonna testify to Congress soon, apparently.
Again,
that happened. That just broke. It's gonna be so good.
He's a regular now.
He's gonna be crying about milkshakes
again.
And
again, I just want to say, like, I mean, and I'm not trying to like highlight what I've been doing. Like, I've been doing anything that special, but
that being said, activist Bam can be found in all these spaces.
I've been to like multiple protests and marches and stuff like that, and one of the things that I've seen is that, like, I went to one in La Mirada, which is even smaller than Fullerton and like more conservative, and it was shocking to me how many people were there, how diverse the crowd was, and like people that I like, neighbors and different people that I know are conservative people, like church going, vote Republican people, were there at the protests, holding signs, holding Black Lives Matter and white silence equals violence. And like, it was literally shocking to me. I think at least one of the things that's happened for sure is that like the term Black Lives Matter isn't as controversial as it was when in like 2014-15, when it was like, it's like, you know, the other side painted that as so radical. Like, now you go in areas and like people have it up in their stores. Like, a lot of people are
houses.
Yeah, like people are drawing a line in the sand in a lot of different ways. I was just in San Diego, and like,
good point.
Although I'm in an area that's like definitely more liberal, but like, it's like all on the sidewalks, and like all these different shops have signs like on their businesses, you know. Even in Fullerton, most of the protests were around City Hall, and across from the City Hall, there's like a fence that blocks off like a baseball field, and a bunch of signs have been on that fence for weeks now. And it was, for me, it was funny. I'm like, damn, like you would think like these right-wing people who like are all over the internet, all in the comments and stuff, you would think like if they had some numbers or if they had some passion, they would just come take these signs off the fence.
Yeah,
I think it's proven to some extent that a lot of these people are literally just live online. And also I think that not to like go all the way off. I'm gonna stop soon, Dan. Trust me. Like I think that we saw what happened to George Floyd, and a lot of people started talking about the police. Like people are talking about police brutality, and like they're talking about the police having too much power and having no accountability. When I was at the La Mirada protests, there were like a quick anecdote. There's a lot of speakers and stuff, like people are talking, and for me, like they were kind of boring and they weren't really focused on the issue. They're talking a lot of personal stories and like, saying Black Lives Matter and say her name, and that's cool, but like also like we got to talk about what's going on with the police. So we're there at City Hall. There's some people talking, and there was 4 police officers on a roof, like adjacent to us, like they were like looking down at the crowd. And Caesar, no, I didn't say the chant that I was saying in Orange. I didn't do that. I had some real nice people around me. I did not start that chant. But
you don't want to get us removed. You don't want to get us channel striked.
Yeah. But I'll tell Dan off air. But
yeah. Please, I put this on my main. Don't.
Yeah. You might get it tatted once you hear
it. Yeah. But it got kind of quiet, and I kind of like shouted up to the police officers that were up there. I was like, I have a question. How did you guys feel when you saw the video of George Floyd get murdered? And no response. And literally like the whole crowd was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I wonder what they thought kind of thing. Like everybody waiting for their response. Nobody, like all 4 of them, I think it was 4 and then there were 6 to the side, 2 more to the side of them, didn't say a word. I asked again, didn't say a word. Then some like older lady was like literally like pleading with them to answer the question or to just like have some kind of like acknowledge that we're asking you a question. She literally said, if you're not allowed to answer that question, just raise your hand. And they did not do that. And that like, there were so many people there, they got like upset. They're like, damn, like we're out here marching and like we're talking about this issue to like reform the police, and these guys don't even look at us like human beings. Yeah. So like that, and there was like some of my conservative Republican voting neighbors came up to me after, were like, wow, like that's crazy. I can't believe that they didn't respond. Thank you for asking that question. And I know that they left there like, okay, even if they were somewhat on the fence, but they came out, they're like, damn, like, no, what they're talking about matters, because I saw those people, those police officers act like we're not even human. And that's really—
we're not even there. Like, there's not even there. They used to, even the protesters, there were even, I want to move on, it's just a little bit soon, but like, there's even cases of militia members in New Mexico, I believe, who were friendly with the police department because one of the militia members, it was like a New Mexico militia. They saw that someone was about to take down a one of those Confederate statues, or a statue related to someone who was almost certainly racist. And to protect the statue, because statues over lives, this militia member shot the guy who was about to take down the statue. This militia member was apparently like the son of a retired police officer for the Albuquerque, New Mexico Police Department, or whatever was there. So there have been other cases where the militias are talking to police officers. They're referred to as friendlies on the radio. There's usually, what I'm saying to say is that what you're talking there are, I'm not meaning to compare white militia members to the white conservative people that were out there, but it's just the same, that usually the common denominator is whiteness, and that in that whiteness, you usually expect like at least some acknowledgement from the police, some bare minimum understanding from the police, but you're just not even getting that at all when you're protesting this topic. It's not because it's like, you know, insensitive. There are National Guard people and police officers in certain places who have responded or said things, or just whatever. But yeah, it's just something that I am not surprised to hear, honestly, because that's just how the police act around in situations I've seen. But yeah, I think there is a lot of a sea change happening here. Again, I just hope, I really hope that it continues going on and manifests beyond protesting and showing out in the street, which is really good. These are stress tests for organizing. But
Well,
really, like, how many of these people join organizations, and how many of these people actually like push forward to get on city councils, get on police boards, shit like that.
We need you, man. We need you to help the people.
After I'm done with the video, I will step in and fight, and I will bring paper plates to all the meetings. I promise you. I got you on napkins, dog.
I do want to say, like, at pretty much every single rally, march, protest I've been to, there's always somebody talking about registering to vote, getting people to vote, and like they're and not like that's going to change everything, but like they're also emphasizing the importance of getting involved in local politics and like going to your city council meetings and like how important those things are. So yeah, like it's not like you brought up Occupy. Like I think Occupy, like there was people out there, and I was at some of those Occupy encampments. Interesting, but I don't think they didn't have.
So sorry, really fast. What do you think about the autonomous zone in Seattle? Do you have thoughts about that? Because every conservative loves to throw that into a conversation. It's, oh, well, what do you think about this? All these radicals, they almost want to say savages, but they can't because
I want to go. I would like to see it. I mean, I mean, honestly, like I haven't really been keeping up with that. I know about it, and like I guess they're talking about dismantling it soon. One of the city council member, Kshama Sawant, is somebody that I follow like a lot, and she's, you know, talked about it, but I haven't really kept up with that. But I just want to say before we talk about that, Occupy, I don't think had like a clear vision. Like they weren't really talking about something politically, like in a kind of focused manner. But I think like what we're seeing going on now, like when they're talking about defunding the police, like we've already seen some action in regards to that in Minneapolis, and I don't know what's going to happen in New York. They're talking about taking $1 billion off the police budget in New York City. I don't know if that's going to happen, but
do you think defund the police was a good slogan or like a good term? Because there's a debate going on where like, oh no, defund the police is too strong. You want to really reform the police, or you want to really like other people are going the other direction. They're saying abolish the police.
I think it's always really important when you're coming up with a slogan. I understand the context of like you're feeling powerful about it or passionate and you want to send a message. But if you're trying to make like a change nationwide in terms of agenda, your slogan needs to like be phrased, unfortunately, in a way that even like that everybody can kind of understand what's going on. I think that people read defund and they just immediately think like bankrupt the police and they throw them in a trash can. So that's like what's kind of, I don't think people are doing the proper research in terms of, you know, what they're really talking about, you know, what they're talking about, the reform they want to do with the police force and all this stuff. I think people are just thinking like, oh, they're just going to abolish it and we're just going to walk around with like in the streets, we'll just, everybody has a baton on them and we're just going to handle it ourselves, you know, citizens arrests everywhere, you know, like I don't think, and you know, maybe people are trolling that. People don't really understand, and those people actually don't understand are people that I also feel like don't really want to invest the interest or the energy into researching what that really means. You know, I feel like when you're taking that stance, in my opinion, you're just like not really trying to see what everybody's talking about. You just read something and you're going along with like what else everybody else is upset about, rather than kind of like looking like, hey, what does that really mean? You know, and kind of checking out what the term that the defund truly means and why city councils were actually down to do it. Like if an entire city council makes a decision, for example, like the council of LAUSD, people were trying to pressure them to do it, and Minneapolis just did it recently. Those are smart individuals. There's a reason they did that. It wasn't because like they wanted to put everybody in peril. So maybe you should kind of look into it as well. You know,
I saw a thing that said y'all knew what defund meant when they were talking about Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. No, I like it. I think just as, I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of discourse. The good examples like abolish ICE. Like half the people who use the phrase abolish ICE didn't mean like get rid of all border patrol, all police, but it was such an extreme statement that it forced people to talk in a different kind of, like it set the beginning of the discussion in a different place where you have to talk down this position and you have to say things that sound like watered down versions of that position. So like in that way where you're getting the Republicans are talking about police reform, like Mitch McConnell talking about police reform, like it's watered down, it's like bullshit, but Mitch McConnell talking about police reform, that is a push. And then even like the moderate liberals who like I hate and despise are talking about police like reform, and some of them are talking about defunding the police because they're looking to their left and they're seeing people saying abolish the police entirely. The people who are like, because defund the police, at least I think, is a little bit smarter than abolish ICE. I think it has a I think because defund, not everyone will think about this to this level, but it has defund itself has a gradient of like, you could either say, okay, we're gonna cut back on the tanks. Like that's an easy thing. Maybe we can get a popular thing to go up. Like we can cut down on the tanks, down all the way to what Berkeley did. Shout out to my friend Councilman Robinson, but he decided to, or he put across a bill that takes out parking and transportation. So like ticketing and parking enforcement from the police. So it's no longer the police who are doing that. It's just it's literally just like taking things outside of the police's jurisdiction, starting from little things like parking enforcement, going all the way up to mental health services. That's what defunding the police can also really do in a gradient. It's just like taking those funds and going somewhere else. Like you said, we defund, like the Republicans were secretly in Congress yelling, defund the schools, defund the hospitals, defund all of this stuff. They've been doing this for the past 80 years if you want to talk about neoliberal economics in this country. So like now the people are loudly saying defund the police. And if you really want to get like specific about it, like shift the money from the police into other things so that the things that things the police are currently doing are no longer handled by people with guns is like the full idea of it. But yeah, defund the police is a slogan.
Abolish ICE is good because I mean that's fine. ICE just came around in 2002 or something like that.
Yeah, it was a direct response to 9/11 because Saudi Arabia is on the southern border.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like ICE is just another like federal law agency that's basically going to be brown shirts for Trump in a couple of years. But like Border Patrol and ICE is totally different. So, but yeah, like what you're saying, I think is. Like you said, not everybody's going to think about these things to that degree. So we'll always have that issue. But
more like no one, actually. Almost no one.
Like 4 people are going to. No, I'm just joking. But there's going to be some people that actually think about it, and there's going to be some people that like hear that and say that's terrible. But then some, like one of their friends or their kids, say like, "No, mom, like just like how they took away art from the school and then dance and they took away all that stuff. Like we're gonna take like the assault rifles from the police and like the bazookas or whatever they got, like and then they can be like, well, I guess they don't need RPGs, so okay,
maybe
in the capitals.
I don't know. You never know what could happen, when someone's robbing a 7-Eleven. You might need a heat-seeking RPG. Yeah.
Oh no! Why is it 7-Eleven, Caesar?
Yeah, no specifics, but and I think that like going off of what you said about defund, I think another great example was that a lot of people were being on, especially like kind of Bam said, these internet people, not even like going out in the street. Like you didn't see any of these contentious people. That you didn't see these masses of people that were so against the Black Lives Matter protests and what was going on. I literally saw hardly anything, maybe one random screaming crazy person, but like you don't really see anything. Well, these people on the internet that have so much energy with their eggbot accounts are talking about, like how dare they defund the police in Minneapolis school district? Well, they're stupid. They don't understand that like you don't have to have the police force for the school district. There's different funds set up for public safety. Public safety officers can ascertain certification without needing to go to police force. There's different methods where you can distribute the money. You didn't have to have officers rolling in with these massive bricked out bulletproof Suburbans going through a damn elementary school. You can just have public safety officers that a lot of us are very commonly seen here in Los Angeles School District, Long Beach School District. We see them all the time. Those guys are unarmed and can get certification processes without needing police force and police funding. That like I said, that's part of defunding. Like I think a lot of people don't understand that stuff, and they definitely are looking into it as deep as the word means and everything.
1000%. Shall we scoot on a little bit? I mean, this is pretty much the end of that. Although I do think that it's interesting that there was a worldwide response to this. Like other people were protesting in Europe and countries in Africa and countries in Asia, kind of in solidarity, and specifically in countries in Europe especially. and they were dealing with their own instances of police brutality. Brazil had a case where their Black Lives Matter protests, and they also had to do with, in addition to those particular politics of being African in Brazil, there were also cases of police brutality from Brazilian police against obviously other Black people that was coming under a head. So this really does have this worldwide kick to, I don't know how it will reverberate in every single country. I don't think that's, you can say in one blanket way that it will affect every single country a certain way, unless, you know, we invade them all. But like,
no, yeah. Yeah, you know, it's funny. You made a point earlier. You said, you know, talk about how some politicians, they may not take a stance where they're saying like abolish or defund police, but they're saying like reform, because just based upon this worldwide response, it's pretty much seems like if you're saying like right now anything in terms of support the police, that's like a danger zone. That's red zone. Like, and even someone who thinks he's so high, mighty, and cool like Trump and all that, they're not even have the balls to say something like that either. Like it's dangerous territory. Like it's a lot right now. And there's a worldwide reaction because like, so and I don't think this gets said enough. And I kind of noticed this like a couple of days ago. I would like to really say that I think like a big congratulations goes to everybody in the world. I think like so much has been done. Like so much is being addressed. Not saying to stop now, but like so much has gotten accomplished. I mean, before any of this, all these things were just going to be shelved per everything else in some filing book, and we're never going to see it again. And so many things have changed and lives have been altered. And, you know, for example, with the different districts and cities and states taking initiative into looking into their measures, looking into their spending. I mean, Los Angeles was just about to pass initiative to increase their police budget by $1.3 billion. Like that was just about to happen. And then they're like, oh God, they're like brought it back and fixed it. Literally would have never happened if people didn't go out there and say something. So that's the fundamental, that's literally the fundamental blood of red, white, and blue is like going out there and the people speaking against it. This is not what it's about. Like the protesting, standing against what's going on. That's like basically what America's all been about. So where everybody was sitting over there.
I would like America to be about more often, I would say. Yeah.
So just shout out to everybody for really going out there and causing some, initiating change ourselves. We didn't have to vote for anybody. Honestly, we had to just go out there and do it ourselves. And we made change ourselves as people.
Yeah, shout out folks for getting up and getting out there and making change for themselves and making a statement. Shout out to white people for reaching out to Black people and asking how they're feeling. That's a great thing that's happening too. Very helpful.
I've sent a lot of I'm good texts.
y'all got the Dan, you got some of those too?
Got a couple, yeah.
Did you get a been thinking about you when everything is going on?
How are you feeling right now?
No, Caesar, you don't have much of a...
I'm glad during a world protest on Black Lives, you just sat and said, "Man, I wonder how Caesar's doing." Let me just go ahead and. I left him on red 3 weeks ago. Let me just. I didn't respond to his like on Instagram. Let me see what he's like. Hey, big dog, hope you're doing good. Oh God!
Geez, it's wild times, right?
hey, wild times. Am I right?
Okay.
Just know we hear you. Okay, thanks, man.
Non-Black people appreciate it, but what a hot seat.
Thanks, Sean.
we love Sean and his depending on the time, either Latino or white perspective. Moving on to the main event, only 30 minutes in. Bam didn't say pause. Good job. Far right populism is a topic. Far right populism is a topic that is currently going on the left, and because what is the left in America without perennial conversations that go in circles about nonsense and nothing really important or major whatsoever? Caesar's already uninterested. He's already doing it. But like the issue what's happening right now with that is going on has to do with a show called Rising with Crystal Ball and Sargar on the Hill. It's just like just another one of those political news shows, that lefty news shows that will, like, Bam usually loves to talk about. Bam, so you can talk. Go ahead.
Do you watch that show? Because I'd never heard of it.
Hard no. No, I mean, like, I
God, no.
no, I don't watch that shit. No, we feed the pigs the slop. We never taste test. Of course not. No, I know of the show because my previous employer had a couple of hosts that would go on there from time to time.
Okay.
And so I was aware of them. Also, Crystal Ball's a decently known person in left of center spaces, let's say.
I've heard of her, but I never heard of the other guy or that show.
Yeah, me neither. But that's mainly what they do. And the thing, Sargar and Jetty, is the main thing they have, the main idea of their show is it's an online only, like, digital first show. So they have that going for them. They're joining the sea of those. Subscribe if you aren't already. Check it out. But they pitch their show on being two sides of populism. Crystal coming from the populist left and Sargar coming from the populist right. And so the idea of a populist left is pretty common and understandable to people who understand what populism is. Maybe I should just like define populism because not everyone did this in a political science course, but no, it's just like an approach. Google just says it's an approach that strives to appeal to ordinary people who feel their concerns are disregarded by established elite groups. So it's like the elite are keeping you down. I'm talking about it. We're going to change it. A lot of people said it was Bernie Sanders, and I think that's pretty accurate. A lot of people said Donald Trump's a populist. I think he's a faux populist, like he uses populist-like strategies, but he's not a populist in practice. And that's kind of what Nathan J. Robinson, who is the editor-in-chief of Current Affairs, another left-wing magazine, a publication that's out there. They do have some podcasts, but Nathan J. Robinson released this article saying that he just doesn't believe that there is such a thing as far-right populism in this country. Because the people that Sargar and Jetty kind of references and talks about are people like Donald Trump, who is, what did someone on Fox say a couple years ago? Xenophobic at worst. Like, he didn't want to say racist, but plays with xenophobia is apparently the line they'll go to. To Tucker Carlson, who like says hardcore racist shit on the daily. Like, to Rand Paul, who isn't even really a populist right, he's just a libertarian. So it's like this far right thing, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Sargar was making a lot of stuff talking about the Tom Cotton article that came out just a couple of weeks ago, saying that when Trump said the looting starts, the shooting starts, that's the right idea to do with things. So Sargar has some pretty rough opinions, and his far-right populism essentially comes down to, yeah, I agree that corporations are screwing people over, but I don't agree with any of the liberal left kind of social politics, which essentially boils down to, I like to think less of people who are not me or not of my class or not of my skin color. Sargar, obviously skin color, not necessarily, but it becomes a little bit racist there because you can be like, there's a lot of racism in the Asian American community. So like there's
you can be Indian and be a white supremacist. It's not Candace Owens is a white supremacist.
I forgot to mention Candace Owens' tweet in the last segment that was like, she said, I'm always confused by people who say things like, don't you see yourself in George Floyd? And she goes, no, why? Do all white people see themselves in Ted Bundy? Do all Chinese people see themselves in Mao Zedong? If you expect me to relate to people based on skin tone, you're an idiot. Because, you know, notable violent people in history, Ted Bundy, Mao Zedong, George Floyd.
What a crew. What a crew, though. What a lineup. That's a group of Power Rangers right there.
That's a super group right there.
That's the super friends.
That's a new Migos.
Super friends.
The sad thing is he'll never be as famous as Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy gets a new documentary every 2 weeks, dude.
Wonder how many George Floyd avenues there are going to be in the country. Probably not many. So bad. But to the larger point, what we're saying, this argument over far left versus far right populism, is largely happening with a bunch of white people or a bunch of people who are like of a certain class. And so like there's not any time where any prominent people in leftist media of color are able to kind of raise their hand and say, well, actually, there are a lot of ways where you don't even have to be a person of color. You can just be someone who is plugged into people of color issues. Like I have a hard time telling people dealing with, we were just talking about ICE. I have a hard time telling people who are dealing with the American regime on the southern border that Trump isn't a fascist. Like, I have a hard time telling people that are the survivors of religiously motivated attacks or like racially motivated attacks that have gone up and increased in 2017 in places like Seattle and places like Minnesota and places like it's happening everywhere. I wouldn't tell those survivors that what is going on in this country isn't fascist. It may not be, just because you say fascist isn't the instant like Hitler button, it isn't the instant like Mussolini button. It's not comparing everything to that, but like there is a spectrum of everything, including a spectrum of progressivism and a spectrum of leftism from like Joe Biden to Mao Zedong. So like there's a whole spectrum of what you could talk about these things. And there's a lot of people on the left who have this respectability politics, I think, of using the word fascism, where they don't want to be cast aside as some like crazy people who are comparing Trump to Hitler. But like Hitler wasn't Hitler overnight. There was stuff that happened leading up to that. And there was a way to campaign to keep people thinking that, oh no, this guy who's doing some shady stuff over here, he's really fighting for me and he's looking out for me. It's these people who are the problem. And like, Trump hasn't gotten that far, but it's about listening to the people who are saying, yo, Trump's in that direction, let's stop, versus the people who are saying, I don't think it's respectable politically to talk about these people as though they're Nazis. I mean, we have to work with them at some point.
Okay.
Which was Glenn Greenwald's fucking point.
Yeah, so let's talk about this dude, Glenn Greenwald.
He decided to do this like meeting of the minds thing on The Intercept, where he like said his point, which is largely disagreeing with Nathan J. Robinson and actually advocating for far-right populism, misusing his credibility as like a good journalist against the government in the aughts, and then reporting really hard on Brazil in the tens, but like using that to give cover to Sargar, who is kind of condoning or kind of echoing a sentiment of shooting protesters in the street because they're black. Like, Sargar's, continue talking, Bam, because I know I've been going too much.
No, yeah, like, this is how I feel. I don't think that Glenn Greenwald's on the left. Like, I don't know if that's how he characterizes himself these days or not, but like, I do not believe that. Like, I'm not going to listen to a guy just like, I'm not going to be vulgar, just like cape so hard for all these right-wing racist figures and be like, yeah, that guy's like on my side. Absolutely not. Like, he's just basically Steve Bannon. And also, I'm not really considering him a journalist. Like, I'm sure like he does some journalism when it comes to Brazil and stuff like that, but what he's doing, like in that Intercept video, like he's giving his opinion. Like, you're not a journalist at that point. Punditry. Yeah, that's punditry. Like, this is how you feel, and I'm not gonna be like, oh well, you know, he's a journalist or he's like some reporter, so he's got to be both sides. Like, absolutely not. Like, also, I think we suffer from the both sidesism. I'm not gonna get into that right now, but it just really. Yeah, like, it really sucks that I got to listen to somebody who has this much credibility and clout and a following. I think he has like 1 million followers on Twitter or something like that.
He's popping on Twitter.
Like, it just like hurts that, like, and it, like, literally it hurts me. And I cannot listen to that shit when for these people, racism is acceptable. Like, you don't look at racism as unacceptable. Like, for me, I cannot. Like, I can't be the person on Facebook where my friends are commenting and they're saying racist shit. Like, I can't have no friend like that. For them, for somebody like Glenn Greenwald, for him, it's just like, oh, we just have a difference of opinion. Like, when you hear what I heard Tucker Carlson, when the dude is Mexican and he has an accent, and Tucker Carlson's like, well, you're from Mexico. And like downplaying this guy's credibility because he's from Mexico. That guy says, I'm a dual citizen. I have USA and Mexican citizenship. Tucker Carlson said, I'm against that. Like, you're a fucking racist, dude. Like,
Tucker Carlson said the leaders of Antifa should be rounded up, put in shackles, and frog marched in front of cameras and then charged with terrorism.
All
this is
right.
someone who Glenn Greenwald says could be a potential ally of the populist left because he also hates corporations. The reason why Tucker Carlson and all these people on the right hate corporations and they hate big tech is because they think they're being censored. They think they're being shadow banned. They've listened to too many Joe Rogan episodes and taken too much DMT and think that that Mark Zuckerberg is out to censor what they send to their uncles and aunts in the South. Like they are not our allies. And there's a difference between maybe you both happen to have power and you work on some bill that's like about free trade, and maybe you help people in that genuine way. And that's issue by issue and it's case by case. And that's a different thing when you're talking about political strategy in office. But if you're talking about, do I want to see these people as my allies if they don't even see me as a person equally, fundamentally? Maybe they won't say that to my face, and maybe they'll say, oh no, that's ridiculous, I won't say that. When you look at what they fundamentally believe and what they won't waver on, it's ultimately, oh, you see me as so little as a person that I can just be shot in the street by the government because that's the American thing to do. That's something Sargar said. Like, that's something Sargar was implying. He was saying that if you have a good social safety net, then you're going to have to reduce the size of the population that it applies to, or reduce the size of the population. So like immigration controls to have a social safety net. He's talking about stuff like, want to know what his populism is? Wall Street, Hollywood, the NBA, and every other commanding heights of American culture, it's infested with Chinese cash. Like, okay, like you're talking about big business, but why you gotta be racist about it? Like exactly what you're saying, Bam, is that once it gets into like the hardcore racism aspect, it's like, sorry, I found a whole political ideology, an imperfect political ideology on the left, but an ideology nonetheless that can tie all these things to material class issues and not me hating other people.
And it, okay, like just from the little that I got from Glenn Greenwald's thing, like it was a totally like, it was just a shill show because he's talking about right-wing populists, and then he was talking about like Mike Lee and people, and I'm like, you're not talking about you're not talking about those people. You're talking about some random senator that did some bill with like Cory Booker. Like, what are you talking about? And
also falls to the branding. It's the branding. It's like, oh, right-wing populists, they're just like left-wing. Totally makes sense. It's so wrong.
And also, it really bothers me that, like you were saying, like, oh, like people like Tucker Carlson are like against big tech, such and such, like, or against corporations. I don't believe that. Like, these people lie, dude. Like, Tucker Carlson's political, like, he used to be for the war, now he's against the war. Like, he's not an idiot. He sees where he's going to see where the winds blow and say, this is the side I need to be on. If we can look at Obama and Biden or Hillary Clinton and be like, they didn't tell the truth about like what they believe, how come people don't, somebody like Glenn Greenwald doesn't look at Tucker Carlson or Trump or whoever and say the exact same thing? Also, Glenn Greenwald is a fucking lame and a loser and a fucking racist himself. If you can't call Donald Trump racist after all this shit that he's said and done.
This is what makes it right-wing nationalism. A hardcore view of nationalism that says we need to close the borders, we need to be highly restrictive, and on some level flirting with, if not overtly embracing at points, a certain kind of racialist nationalism that says that America and the people who have constructed it and built it are who America really is, meaning European descendant white Americans, which is why the first thing Trump did was call Mexicans rapists, because he was signaling to this certain base in the Republican Party that responds to that kind of divisive rhetoric that his campaign was going to appeal to that.
If you're talking about a racialist nationalism, which racialist ain't even a word, this dude
that was invented by comedians. Literally, like racial, it's a joke.
Yeah, like he's like trying to go all the way around saying racist. Like, dude, your buddy Tucker Carlson, he's racist, and he's not some how could Tucker Carlson talk in populist terms? He's been rich his whole life. He's the biggest show on TV. Like, just because, oh, he brought in this Venezuelan person that's a communist. Who cares? His beliefs, like, he says racist things. Glenn Greenwald, if you're okay with having racist friends, then you're out, dude. Like, you're out. If anything, somebody should just tell him, like, look, because you don't have the same, this is what would bother me about like some of these other people on the left. I feel like they talk about this stuff like somebody like Jimmy Dore or some of these other people. It's like you're talking about like you're propping up the right in a way that would hurt me. Like if these people get as much power as they want, like I'm a target, not you. So as much as I could dislike Joe Biden, like I know that Joe Biden is not going to get be encouraging the Proud Boys or whoever to be as violent as they want to be. Like I know he's not going to do that. I'm not saying like they might not do it because they might end up doing it anyway. But like I know that he's not whipping up this fervor to where like when the pandemic starts, I'm like, damn, like I hope these white people don't go crazy and see me walking down the street.
Right,
you know
like an Ahmaud Arbery situation.
Like
Caesar, do you have anything? Sorry, it's not cutting you off. Like it's
very good. I just think the most disappointing thing to me about Glenn Greenwald is that the only reason I actually even got access to him was watching him be the first journalist to be able to do an interview with Lula inside a prison. So I was really intrigued. I thought that the interview process he did was very well. I thought it was fair. A lot of people going into the interview process with a politician, it just becomes like an ass kissing fest or whatever. I thought that he did a good job of bringing up questions that you would hear both sides bring up. So I really enjoyed those. Like this is this interesting person. So I started following him. You know, that night, you know, we talked about this show, and I was just thinking to myself, what the weirdest thing I've noticed about Glenn Greenwald is like, okay, like you spent so much time. I mean, I guess you did. At this point, I don't know if you did. I don't know if someone else is putting in the work and you were just like saying it out on TV and someone else putting in the work. I can't imagine you saying all that, saying what you said about the Marielle Franco situation, taking those stances. And it sucks because like to have some nerve to talk about like Marielle Franco, like and be such an online on Twitter with your massive following, being an advocate about how much injustice was caused upon her. I mean, this is a female Black Brazilian woman who was a powerful gay activist, you know, for the rights of Black people in Brazil. You know, to have in one breath be able to say her name and then take another breath and say and align with people who literally she would probably never ever sit at a table with in her life is bonkers to me. It doesn't, maybe his twisted mind that makes he sees himself as some open-minded individual, but that's not the case. Open-minded doesn't mean that you're willing to discuss people that say emphatically racist statements. That doesn't mean you're open-minded. You can listen to those people and go, yeah, I'm not fucking with that, you know, and sorry for cussing, but like that's fine. But once you're like using them as like a talking point or a reiterator, using them as somebody you want to have on a discussion or some kind of panel, like that's just ridiculous. And it seems like with him, it's whatever crowd he's in or whatever group he's in, he like starts to he like switches up his little bit of his alliances. And you know, watching that video, I'm like, oh, that's funny. It's like I'm watching a whole different dude. Like what's going on here? Like literally, this is not the guy I've seen from the little the intercept clips I've been watching, because I subscribe to the YouTube channel because of him. I'm like, this is weird. Like I'm watching two different people going on here right now.
Also, Caesar, in the one that he did the other day with Nathan Robinson, he said that Bolsonaro is not a right-wing populist.
I don't really regard Bolsonaro, and never have, as anything remotely resembling a right-wing populist, not just in terms of the reality, but even in terms of the political packaging, unless you define right-wing populist so broadly, which is, I feel like how you're doing it, to mean simply a politician who rails against the elites and claims to represent the common person, which seems so broad as to almost obliterate the definition, because it pretty much includes every politician.
That's the epitome of a right-wing populist.
That's great. That's what's crazy to me, because like literally the entire, like that's literally his entire makeup. Like it's like the poster child. If you were to do the poster child into the world, if you were to look at the right-wing populist and you'd be like, who's going to be the flag bearer? That's the dude right there. Because at least to like the bare minimum credit, like there's been points that Trump is not even aligned with Bolsonaro is. That's what's crazy. Like Bolsonaro is like saying things that Trump flipped already a long time ago. He's still saying it's fake, like about coronavirus. Like you just got it's ridiculous. When I saw that, I'm like, what is your message at this point? Like I don't get it. Like you were all about Lava Jato, like you're all about shutting that down, all about shutting down Sergio Moro, and all about how how Bolsonaro had a big influence in changing the Supreme Court justices that were inside of Brazil. And then all the controversy came about. Intercept did a ton of research on that, did a ton of work, and it brought some changes in Brazil. And a lot of people, were scared for their lives in a moment, whatever. But then in the next breath, you literally covered the election about Bolsonaro. And then you talk about him not being right wing. I don't even get it. Someone who doesn't even do the research that you might have done sitting here, I'm like, there's no way I would even say something like that. And you were knee deep in that shit. That's ultimate shilling to the max to me. Like you're literally like you're in this group and you don't have a backbone. Like I'm just gonna like play with these people. And if that is how he feels, then you just really got to cut it out. Like you just got to stop this and just start online. Don't put journalists. Say that you're a figure. You're some kind of like a personality. You're a personality at this point. You're not like a journalist because. Like you guys said, when you're out there voicing your opinions on things, that's not what journalism is about, and it's just disgusting. That was like disgusting to me on so many levels.
Yeah. He called Bolsonaro a faux right-wing populist, and no, he called Trump a faux right-wing populist, and then said that Bolsonaro is not a right-wing populist. I'm like, Steve Bannon was up both their ass. If Steve Bannon's there, then you're
like I don't know if like populist is a word because like Nathan J. Robinson's point was that right-wing populism isn't a thing. It's just white nationalism, or it's proto-fascist, pseudo-fascism, whatever you want to call it. Whatever strong word Nathan J. Robinson was using, I'm not remembering the exact one right now. Unfortunately, sorry to the listeners, but like I can drop in the link or something. You'll be able to tell it's like some ridiculous statement like, oh yeah, Bolsonaro isn't this. There are a lot of cases where like Bolsonaro is more extreme, it's more to the right if we don't want to
I'm saying, dude,
than Trump. Like
then a lot of people
and if anyone should know that, it's Glenn Greenwald. But like there's the shilling aspect, which we'll get into a couple of other figures in the media we'll talk about in a bit. But like the last point about like there was like it's the annoying thing is that Glenn Greenwald used to be the shit. Like back with like back in the 2000s with the Iraq and Afghanistan war, with all the stuff with the secrets the government was keeping, the spying, all that stuff, Glenn Greenwald was on top of it. And there was something that happened with these 2000s like media upstarts people like Ezra Klein, you could argue, used to be better or like more of an advocate for things, and now it's just become this I look outside and I see that things in the world are bad. I don't know why. There's probably a chart that'll explain that. It's just like really, it's just really the sort of bland style of politics. Even to like, I'll hit the guardrails a little bit over at the young 5%, 5%ers in the 25th district over there. He had a welfare's Queen's comment earlier this year where he was like, Cenk of the Young Turks.
Oh.
I said 5%ers because of his vote count thing. But like, like he had this welfare queens moment that was a big issue where he was talking about it on air, and it had to be this whole special thing. And I don't, again, like hitting the guardrails here. I don't know or care too much about this, but like there is this thing where the bastions of the left that existed in the 2000s, like the figures I'm talking about, they carried us through the dark periods. They carried people to the left through the dark periods, media-wise, when MSNBC was like kind of the leftist voice, but really not. It was just like Keith Olbermann angrily rambling into his demise slowly. It was Rachel Maddow and her like 47-minute long PowerPoint presentations. Like that was the left. And then the alternative were these people. And they carried it for a bit. But then you made an earlier point, Bam, that was like, these people aren't really from the left. I think they genuinely believe that they are on the left, but that the left has left them. They think that politics is something they think that politics is something where you can place yourself down as a point in history and go, I am right here, and the world doesn't move, and the world doesn't change, and the world doesn't adapt at all. When that is a fundamentally conservative position. That is a small c dictionary definition conservative position. And politics is always moving, it's always adapting, and it's what really separates you from the left from the right is are you willing to hear out those adaptations and try to make sure you include as many people in this project as possible to make sure we build a better world? Or are you going to find some belief system that works really well for you and the world you've constructed for yourself and you feel safe in, and you're going to flag yourself to that, and you're going to ostracize people who seem to be new or different from you because you don't understand them? It's either one or the other, and these figures have chosen to be planted in a politics where they want to consider themselves left, they want to call themselves left, and they have some ideological overlap with what is the modern left now, but they were never in it for the same reasons that we are now. If they wanted to not have this racial blindness in their companies, in their rhetoric, in their opinions, the common denominator is just they should give people of color the opportunity to speak and talk about, okay, Glenn Greenwald is not the only expert on what is or isn't fascism in America. We could find anyone who's maybe like someone who is Latin American who has been studying what's happening at the border, or anyone who has an idea of what's going on who could say like, okay, maybe there are some things that you aren't going to see very well as a journalist because of how you're positioned in the society and the system. But with the same knowledge you have, but also being this kind of person and being able to report journalism from that kind of angle, I can provide a different perspective that'll actually prove you stupidly wrong. And again, like I don't see how you can live in the country where, I mean, never mind all the little quips here and there where Trump is encouraging domestic terrorists and people at his rallies to harm people who are against him. But just like the flat out stuff on the border, the stuff in foreign policy, the trade war, all this stuff is typical, like, dumbass shit, but also just very fascist shit. And you are doing a full on like failure of your fundamental responsibilities as a journalist to not like, you don't have to call him Hitler, but you have to like point out what this looks like in history, because that's what people expect them to do. Like, but yeah, they're all grifters.
Glenn Greenwald is the type to see what happened to George Floyd and literally not mention race. Like, well, you know, I mean, this dude, Brazil's more racist than America. Like, no question. Like, you live in a
topic. Like, it's not even a discussion.
Like, I don't know, but I would imagine in the Senate, in the cabinets and shit, there ain't nobody that look like me. Like, I would imagine there might be like a couple at most, but there's very little opportunity for people that look like me, and there's plenty of them there, to get ahead in life. I just don't understand like how you can see something like, it's just, racism isn't unacceptable for these people. And for me, like and also another thing that's annoying is like, I feel like it's some kind of privilege. Like, what is it that you just talk about foreign policy like all day? Like, that's all you care about? Like, I'm not gonna yeah, like I love geopolitics. I can talk about that all day. But
we do on the show.
But like at the same time, we also got to talk about like, there are people that are in government in America right now who are pushing for universal health care. And there ain't nobody on the right, populist or not, that would push for that. Not one person. If you talk to somebody like Glenn Greenwald and all these other people, they'll do, well, Biden's like, okay, we're not talking about Biden. We're talking about the people that are in the Democratic Party, or independent, I guess, and they are on the left of Trump and Biden, and they are pushing for something that will help this nation more than anything, in my opinion. And it's probably the most racist thing in the world that we don't have it, but that's a whole nother issue. For me, like my leftism can't just skip over that. Like, how can, like, right. Is it because you're a white guy that you're just able to be like, that doesn't matter? Also, I'll never forget, like a lot of these, I mean, Dan, before we started recording, I told you I unfollowed all these people.
Oh, you want me to hit record?
But like, I remember one of the things, this is probably like the beginning of like starting to like feel rage for these people. I was watching something, it was like a live stream on the Gray Zone. This was, I think it was right before we did our first political report after Trump killed Soleimani.
Political Report 0, the secret one.
Oh, isn't that out?
No, we never published that one.
Unreleased.
That was way too saucy.
Yeah.
That's going to be a Patreon episode.
No, that's going to be our get canceled episode. That's going to be the one that gets dug up 3 years from now.
Oh, no.
I just remember, like, dude, I can't remember who it was. I know it was Aaron Mate and Max Blumenthal and maybe Ben Norton and some other woman. I forgot who it was, but Rania Khalek, I think. And somebody in the comments said, like, hey, like, don't you think that Trump did this to distract from the impeachment? And they just said flat out no. Like, they're acting like the impeachment process has absolutely nothing to do with it, because in their mind, the impeachment process is just, for them, it's like total bullshit. When I'm like, well, damn, dude, like it can't be nothing. Like, are you that blind, or are you just like that, like, committed to just, no, if the Democrats did it, it's bad. Like, if Nancy Pelosi thinks it's decent, it's bad. Like, what's happened to you? Like, I don't gotta love Nancy Pelosi or Adam Schiff to just pay attention and be like, well, damn, it looks like Trump did something wrong. They're just like, no, he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, although they barely even blamed him in that shit, but
we're going to take the most criminal person possibly ever elected to high office, or one of the most criminal people ever elected to high office, and only focus on the hardest to charge sliver of all the things he did and use that to try to impeach him, was kind of Nancy Pelosi's policy. Because it was literally like, with the Ukraine impeachment thing, all we're going to do is focus on the Ukraine stuff. Not Deutsche Bank, not anything else, not anything going on why you would possibly impeach him for any conduct similar to what the Ukraine thing was for. But just that, not to get too far into it. But like, when you're talking about your breaking point with these people.
Yeah, and it was just like, for me, I'm like, well, damn, dude, like, don't you see what this person, Donald Trump, represents? Like, don't you see the people that are at his rallies? Like, don't you see these people that support him? Like, come on, this is like the worst of the worst, man. Like, not every single one of them, obviously, but like a lot of these, like, these people are fucking rabid, dude. Like, we like these people that like have these, like, people go to these rallies and talk to them. They say insane stuff and they worship Donald Trump. There ain't nobody that worshiped Obama the way that these people worship Donald Trump. Like, nobody was acting like that about Obama. So we got like
except elderly Black women.
Like, we got a cult of personality in a way that is similar to these fascist movements of the past. And for me, I'm like, it don't make me no never mind to mention Mussolini or Hitler or whatever. Yeah, obviously Trump don't have a book where he's saying the Jews are responsible for everything. He can't even read, but come on, dude. Like, we're seeing what's happening.
He's surrounding himself with the people who love those books. Like,
yeah, and Trump
Bannon literally recommending that book, that French book that's like the fantasy about killing immigrants.
Yeah, and we also got people committing like heinous hate crimes, killing people, and they're pointing to Donald Trump and like this ideology that surrounds him. There ain't nobody that was killing anybody that was saying like, oh man, because Obama's doing drone strikes, I'm gonna go kill somebody in this damn mall. I'm gonna rock with my boy Obama and I'm gonna do a drone strike on your ass. Like, no, dude. Like, we got to talk about the reality on the ground. And for whatever reason, a lot of these white so-called leftists don't feel the need to do that. And maybe they're racist. I don't know.
I think at bare minimum they're race blind. I think like the definitions of racism are never. The racism are constantly shifting and evolving based on not based on like things that are changing, but based on what people are comfortable talking about and what are comfortable saying, and people saying, oh yeah, I experienced this too. Oh yeah, this is a groundswell now. Now this is kind of more aware knowledge, and now we can understand that this is completed within like the bubble of racism. I don't think, because I said these leftists, they decide to plant themselves in the aughts politically and ideologically. they are not paying attention to any of that conversation. They're far removed. They see themselves as in a class above it all, with Matt Iglesias and his, even though coronavirus is terrible, it's a better time to be alive than any time right now on Earth and any time ever. Or even though racism is bad, at least you're alive in 2019. It's like, there's this level of punditry that they're at. But
if you
like I said, I think it's ridiculous. And it's the case in point, Bam, now is the time for you to take on all these Patreon people and start your own show and start kicking ass. Like, if anyone can be, if Tim Pool or Michael Tracy, if any one of these grifters can go in, then why can't you start making money, sir?
I'm waiting for you to want to do it with me. We gotta have to do the show together.
That'd be great. I'll be your Jamie, guys.
But we definitely Twitch that.
I would love for somebody to, like, I know if you ask Tucker Carlson right now, and I'm sure he said it before, like, who gets treated with more racism between white people and black people in America, I know he's going to say white people. Like, I know he's going to say white people have it worse when it comes to racism. Like, that's easy for him. And I'm sure he said it before. And I just want somebody to ask Glenn Greenwald about that. Like, just ask him, like, what do you think?
Oh yeah, like
just ask
someone should just make a Twitter bot that's just like, here's every horrible racist thing that Tucker Carlson has said. Do you think we can work with this person? Anyone who's like the Jimmy Dores of the world, anyone who's saying like, oh, we can actually meet in the middle with some of these people on the right. Like, I think locally, when you're talking to people in person who may be a little bit nativist in the way they're approaching things, I think you can reorient people in in-person conversations. Sure. When it comes to the punditocracy, when it comes to these people who like are the kinds who aren't wearing masks in Trader Joe's, like that kind of person, we're not going to try to focus and reason with them and deal with them. If I could, this gets, I think, near to our random question. This is just so we can kind of go near the end. We always have every episode have a random question of some kind, and this one's from Sean, the gone but not forgotten voice of the podcast. But this question I kind of posed was based on, obviously this year has been record tumult and drama in this country that we're living through, we're talking about, we're podcasting through, we're recording this. There are elections in November. There's a lot going on with those elections in November. We haven't gone much into the politics aspect of it because this is not a political recap show. But I did do a little remade reference there if you even paid attention. But like, this is not with voting, like you said, we might not have voting in a normal sense. Some places don't want to do absentee voting. If there's COVID, people lining up is going to be difficult. Even if there wasn't COVID, there are all these places of voting that are being shut down in cities where it's already hard enough to get to a place to vote. It's going to be harder to vote anyways. These elections are going to get contested. If Trump wins, the left is going to be really angry, and they're going to try to say that it was some sort of scheming or something else was happening, which might be true, because it's a good chance Trump is going to try to mess with the election. And if Trump loses, is there anyone 100% certain that Trump wouldn't fight the idea that he's losing? Like, he should, like everything else he's done, from like Fox News polls in the morning to like crowd sizes, he isn't going to say, oh, guess what? It turns out these elections haven't been counted, or like they're letting the illegals vote in California. So actually you got to invalidate these. And until these votes are counted, until Congress does this, I am not going to leave because I am entitled to a second term. And so is there any situation? The question is, what are the odds that after Election Day, we have riots in the streets?
Oh, of course we're going to have riots.
Oh, 10 out of 10. I'm not right, damn it.
I did not expect it to be that unanimous. Holy shit.
Well, okay,
that was
wait.
realistic as fuck.
Okay, riot? Okay. Here's the situation, I think. Like, Trump is not gonna... Okay. I think I remember when Michael Cohen was on trial, or where he was not on trial, when he was talking to people before he went to jail, his former fixer, lawyer, whatever. He was saying that
the second time or the first time?
I'm sorry?
He went to jail multiple times. Let's just say the first time.
Oh, okay. Well, I think Michael Cohen got out because of coronavirus. I think he's out right now, but he's on the Tekashi with the ankle bracelet situation.
You're
He was saying that Trump will not leave office if he doesn't get reelected. He said that. He's like, he's not going to leave office. And when he said that, it's a little scary, but I was also like, well, damn, like, I hope he's doing that. So like, if Trump doesn't get reelected, he's got to leave so he doesn't give Michael Cohen the "I told you so." Now, I just need some. Damn, Dan hated that.
I just like that stung a little.
We need people or people in the media, like as it gets closer to the election, to ask Trump straight up, if you don't win the election, will you leave office? Like, I think we need people to ask him that straight up, just like, because it's a big chance that he won't leave office. You know?
Caesar, what do you think?
I mean, it just like, it seems inevitable, like we said about the riots. I just think that that's one of the things I was kind of just thinking about the day. I'm like, man, it's with everything that's going on right now, I'm kind of really concerned how the elections is going to go. I think we kind of first got a test of how things are with the response to the first Trump rally and the booming crowds that showed up for that one. You know, it was loud up in there. Definitely masses appeared. So, you know, but the main thing is, you know, it was more like I'm not doing this anyway. So, you know, more like a Ja Rule concert. But the thing is like what you're really seeing is, you know, of course, Trump did his usual thing where he just made some typical, what I felt pretty racist comments and insensitive comments, and we saw the reaction online. You know, everybody's upset about it. We move on. It's all good. New day. And it just makes me really curious to see how, when it comes to the point in which we really decide who we want, you know, do we want Mumbling Joe or do we want Donald Trump? I think no matter what, each side, it's the reaction. If Trump wins, is going to be, like you said, the left is going to be extremely angry. They're going to feel like they got played, even though at the same time I'd be like, what do we expect? And then if Biden wins, all those Trump buddies are going to start come out of nowhere, going hard because they're already done protesting face masks and are come out upset about that as well too. So to me, it's almost like a lose-lose in the riot category. But I think the bigger thing is, it's like, this is like an election where I guess almost back to back, or I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I mean, not, I don't know as in like, I don't want Trump, but it just feels kind of weak. Like, it feels like the Democratic Party kind of failed again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, goddamn, again, you know, it sucks because it's the one person that it's against is the one and only Donald Trump. Like, out of all the people, it wasn't against, you know, John McCain or none. It's literally Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, when's the last time? Go ahead. When's the last time a Republican just like straight up won an election without like some shenanigans? Like, I don't know when the last time that happened.
That's true. That's true. It always took a little bit of Florida sizzle on it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think like, but actually, because I didn't really answer your question, but riots, like, I don't think there's going to be riots if Biden wins. Okay, honestly, like, I don't necessarily think there's going to be riots, like not anything close to what we saw in the George Floyd protests. There will be some stuff, but it won't be like that crazy. There will be protests. But I don't think there's going to be, if Trump wins the election, I don't think there's going to be people out there like breaking stuff and looting because Trump won again. And I don't think like the people that are anti, like, you know, maybe the QAnon people could get, maybe Q could tell.
Why'd you bring Q up? Why'd you bring Q up in here? Oh, God.
Maybe Q could get him in the streets, but
Q ain't pushing no weight.
But
the Q ain't doing no weight right here. Thumbnail. Called it thumbnail.
But like, I don't know. I'm concerned about these elections just because I don't want Trump to win, but like I'm also like there's like that, like will he leave office? Also there's like, is he worse not being in office? Like is he worse? You know, after this.
Oh, I know what you mean. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, he might be worse being just on Twitter and doing rallies, ranting and raving.
Have freedom on Twitter again. God help us all.
Yeah, or
he's gonna be away from the levers of power. Real talk, like.
What if he was a Fox News pundit? Then we're really doomed.
Oh, no, that'd be great because he sounds like an idiot. He can't talk, so
he might get a show, a 10-minute end on 60 Minutes.
Oh no, he's going full network, baby. He's going Trump TV.
Yeah, if he's out, if he loses, he's definitely gonna go like 2.0 mode on us. He's gonna go all out, and he's gonna be on coffee mugs and cell phone cases soon.
It'd be great if
beyond Trump states.
Yeah.
Like it'd be great if like he loses and he just dies. Honestly, like that'd be great. Like, can he just die?
It'd be great if he lost the election and during his lame duck period.
I didn't say all that.
You kind of.
I'm gonna bleep this out. I'm gonna bleep this out.
You're guilty by association. You started this train. You started the bro. You started the.
No. I said die, not. Like
he's old. They're gonna get you too.
And
he's old.
And
yeah, you didn't say die of old age.
These are most likely to rat us out to the feds. Thank you.
Oh yeah, man. I'm trying to stay in the country.
No, honestly, like I mean, like I'm concerned, and I wonder, like I also wonder, like if it gets to that point where, even if we're not at the point where Trump doesn't leave office, but like if he's even hinting at it, you know, like if it gets to like mid-October and Trump is like, well, you know, like
fake polls, the polls are fake. I don't care what they say.
What? Yeah, and if he's like,
Russia.
What? If he starts saying like, well, you never know if the election will be real. You never know what the Democrat Party is going to do. Like, so we'll have to
mail-in ballot.
Yeah, well, and like, I wonder.
You think you're really not going to leave office?
Like, there's a potential for that. Like, I wonder if at that point, these people on the left who have been like giving Trump the biggest pass ever, I wonder if then it'll be real for them. Like, I wonder if then they're like, if they'll just be like, well, you know, he's probably just joking, you know, Trump's being Trump. Or if they're like, okay, like now we got a real issue. Because if he doesn't leave office, like we're talking police state. Like we're talking about cutting off the internet and shit like that.
I mean, I think they are on record. All those pundits are on record for how much they think Trump is an aberration, how much they think that he will energize the left by being elected, and that he won't do much while in office, but all he will do is energize the left. And in 2020, we'll elect a leftist progressive president, as all of them or many of them are on record as saying, which is why we don't need to worry about Trump. And we're on record for calling him out on it and saying that this might get ugly in November. So all we'll get to do is see what happens and compare records. And look, they're going to be wrong either way, but hopefully this doesn't end in complete and total disaster for this country. 2021 hopefully is our year.
It would be really funny to me that it would have to take a goddamn re-election for a wake up. Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? It takes you 8 years to learn an effing lesson. Is that what it takes? It didn't take a 4 year. It didn't take two. No. It didn't take almost impeachment. That wasn't enough. It wasn't even like in the 4 year he almost got it. I mean, I guess almost is a funny word, but impeached was like he had to go to the principal's office. He had to do that, right? Like he had to do that. That wasn't enough. It was like, oh no, let's have this insane, creepy entire campaign that ran through with Joe Biden, have all this stuff that's brought up allegations about him, let him get through, have an election process where he completely slam dunks on him, and then it's like, oh, you know what? I think I think, I think before we were kind of looking at things from a different perspective. We're trying to be open-minded, but now we really need to kick into high gear. Are you kidding me? It took you 8 years?
Well, no, I'm talking about like this election here. This will be 4 years, and him not leaving office if he loses this election.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying like if he comes back again, or like,
I'm saying if Trump
loses and stays,
if he loses and he doesn't leave, because this is what Michael Cohen was saying. Michael Cohen was like, if he loses the election, he's not going to leave office.
Just know this. I can't even hand this out. I can't even dish this out myself. If he loses and doesn't get up out that chair, that's on site. Like, I gotta get a text in the White House saying it's on site. Okay, it really is, because straight up, no way, man. There's no way. You gotta go. All right, like the same using to shimmy everybody off the street so he can go hold a Bible in from the church. Got to shimmy his ass off that chair too. That's literally on site. I'm not playing this on site. I don't even care about the White House, but I'm upset. I'm upset. And I just got my citizenship in 2010. I'm angry.
And honestly, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there is no, like, we're talking about a person where you have to question that.
That's ridiculous.
Like, nobody's questioning that with Obama or Biden or Hillary.
If that happens, literally 2020 is a Hall of Fame year. Like, it's a Hall of Fame year. It's a Hall of Fame year from beginning to end, dog. It's a Hall of Fame year.
Fires that we haven't been talking about fires yet this year. Wildfires this year about to be something. I mean,
it's 1776. That stuff happened then. That's whatever. But this year we started off hot and we're not finishing in November elections. Lord knows we're not stopping.
Like, there's no Michael Bay production, bitches.
Year. This might be the break right now we're living in it. We're just kind of kicking it a little bit right now, and it's still turned up.
Lens Flare 2020, Michael Bay.
A Quentin Tarantino film.
Fire emoji 2020. That's what it is, dog. Jesus.
No, there's going to be a Quentin Tarantino film based on how many uses of the N-word we're getting.
I just can't. Okay. I want to ask Dan though. Like, Dan, like,
we're wrapping up, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, just about the prospect of him not leaving office. Like, do you consider that, or do you think that's completely crazy?
No, I think it's definitely a possibility that I don't consider very often, because honestly, my head's in a bunch of different stuff, and I will do bad things if I keep that in my head too much. But it's something we really should consider. It's like, no, it's totally possible, because he has, from day one, regardless of looking into any of his policy or any of his beliefs, Donald Trump has been the kind of person who bucks norms and he bucks trends. And there's nothing there's no rule. Anytime, Trump has proven that anytime as long as there's no rule for something, he's going to go around it. He's going to do his own thing. There is basically no rule that says a president has to leave. They're supposed to have 2 terms, but like, if there's some extra special thing, it's just tradition. George Washington said that tradition, and they just traditionally peacefully left. The idea of peacefully leaving your status as the highest office in the land is a weird thing that America kind of piloted on, and it worked really well because you had presidents from Andrew Jackson all the way down to Teddy Roosevelt to Abe Lincoln to Bush obeying that norm. Trump obeys no norms, none at all. So if there's any kind of, we've already shown he's willing to question poll results. We've already shown he's willing to question object permanence itself. We've already shown he's willing to question voting and mail-in ballots, which is what we might have to do if there is COVID and we can't go out and vote, or we can't go vote in those numbers.
He's a mail-in ballot. He uses mail-in ballots himself.
Yeah, and he's already talked about voting suppression tools that are being used by Democrats while being totally fine with what's being done by Republicans. Literally, fewer places to vote in a pandemic, where you're demonizing the alternatives to vote. Yeah, of course it's on the board. I do want to get to what Sean said. He basically said that, yeah, if Trump wins, the country will burn, which is just like short and sweet to the point.
Yeah,
but like if Biden wins, what we're gonna get is 4 years of I mean, first of all, I don't think Biden's definitely not going to finish the 4 years. If
You think he's gonna have like the Men in Black aliens is gonna come up? Like,
I'm not sure Biden makes it to. I'm still on record for saying this. I'm not 100% sure Biden makes it to November, let alone like 4 years.
Every single president goes in and they leave looking way older and deteriorated. What does Biden look like when he's done?
The Crypt Keeper.
Tapioca.
He looks like Mr. Barnes or whatever from The Simpsons.
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
Like Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove.
Oh damn, yeah, definitely Yzma. Definitely Yzma. Yeah, that's a good one.
No, yeah, I don't know. Yzma also like top like 5 villains of all time. He's super cool.
And he looks like when Harry Potter, when the guy got rid of the Sorcerer's Stone, he just withered into ashes. Yeah, like I you know, it's like there's so many freaking variables with this guy. It's almost like that's the number one thing we talked about like earlier episodes. It's like there's no accountability, and he has like all the variables in his favor. Like even when he says crazy things, he gets to tweet them, right? And there's no contention because he doesn't have to address anything that's said back to him. There's no like when he writes something online, it's not like there's a response that's right in front of his tweet and you have to like watch this engagement. It's there, you have to click on the comments to read comments, and then there's no replies to it. So he gets to literally say whatever he wants, and it's used as a talking point. And like you said, if he loses, he like wins, and if he wins, he wins. Like it's just like it's ridiculous. Like it's that's why something like what's happening right now is so, I think, important for all of us in general, because this was like a big moment in terms of clarity on people being able to do something without having to wait till November or wait until the local elections or whatever. They were like, you know what? I'm just going to go handle this right now. I'm going to go outside and handle this right now. Go ahead, Bam.
I think, yeah, what Caesar just said, if he loses, he wins. And if he wins, he wins. That's fascism.
Yeah.
Like that's
not democracy.
Like that's the political equivalency of fascism.
Yeah.
But Mussolini had to get killed by some communists. Franco died in office, and Hitler allegedly killed himself. But if he didn't, I guess he would have just still been around if they didn't, take him to Nuremberg trials. But, who?
Argentina. Go ahead though.
Nah, Brazil. Yeah. Brazil.
Hey, okay. You've been talking to Glenn Greenwald. Go ahead though.
Yeah, Chile and Argentina with John McAfee.
Yeah, they're kicking it.
But yeah, like that, like. That's fascism. Like you set up a situation where you can't do anything wrong. And I think in a democracy, like obviously the American democracy is not perfect and it's, whatever you want to call democracy or not, but like you're counting on every single person to hold themselves accountable, like mature fucking adults. And we got a child in the White House.
Facts.
Absolutely true.
Well, because it's darkened with Dan.
Yeah, the producers cut the lights on Dan. They're like, that's enough.
Yeah, they're kicking me out the door.
Please don't. Wrap it up.
Yeah, they're telling me I gotta go. So I gotta leave their room, which is not a great corner. You backed me in here, Caesar. So I'm gonna wrap it up. This has been whatever we'll call this, political report, or you're still going to go with it. It's been wonderful to do this. I appreciate it. Like I said, it's separate from the news cycle, so I feel like we're talking about the stuff that really has an impact. Of course, we didn't talk about coronavirus. That's having more of an impact than we thought it was. We thought it was dying down. Nope, that's just the gift that keeps on giving. But we are going to talk about its effects in July, especially with the fireworks that are going off. Obviously, the fireworks will be the biggest news, but no, whatever. Bam and Caesar, thank you so much for joining me. Y'all can be found on the We Made It podcast. Check it out where they are covering pretty intensely the way that Black Lives Matter is affecting world soccer. Games are back. McRib is back, y'all. All right, games are back. So they will be talking about that. Me and my invisible friend Sean can be found on Audio Face. Of course, you know that because you're in this podcast feed. We will have episodes. We are doing episodes. Of course, you can check those out. check out the description of the podcast where you can find us all on social media and whatever, or the description of this YouTube video. I forgot I'm uploading this to YouTube as well. And yeah, if you like these, please let us know. We'll continue doing them. They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door. What does it mean to play us out? Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
See ya.